like, just calm down, folks. Just calm down. And it is the Best Boys Center Ice podcast, 2025 Stanley Cup playoff wrap-up show. And what did Carson say last night? Either I'm going to have a smile on my face or I'm going to have a big old frown. Well, there's a smile on my face for a reason. We'll get into that a little bit.
Unfortunately, I'm happy the Oilers won, but like I was looking forward to a rant tonight.
I had it all. I had it all planned in my head if things went south for the Oilers, so I had it all planned in my head. It was going to be a good one, Car, too. Maybe I'll just recreate it for you.
Well, hopefully then that, if anything, either the Oilers lose a game or two here, or they go to the conference final and they have Stu has a bad game or two in there.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it, but it's all right. It's all right.
It's all right. So we're here again tonight, as we always are, after the last game of the playoffs. A couple of games tonight. We'll get into the Caps and the Hurricanes and the Oilers in Vegas.
Which is funny that game, Caps and Hurricanes, was actually technically closer. This one, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. So we want to say you can get the Best Boys Center Ice podcast YouTube on the Refocused Radio Network. All of our nightly shows are on there. And you can get that there. You can also get it on Spreaker, and we sometimes post them up on TikTok as well. So tonight, 2 games, and pretty much both teams that won are now at 3-1 advantage, and there's a lot of history at 3-1 in the playoffs, and it's a tough one, especially when you're the favorite. With both teams that are down 3-1 are the favorite and are division leaders, and that's a tough one. And we'll get into why it's tougher and a more knife in.
It's not easy. It's not as easy as it sounds to take that fourth game.
No, so we'll get into that first. But the first game of the night was in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Carolina Hurricanes and Washington Capitals. And once again, it's just like Washington can't get that step. They can't get to that next level against Carolina. Carolina come out with the first 2 goals of the game in the first and second period. So they were up 2-0 through 40 minutes. And a team like Carolina, that's hard to come back from. They're one of like a stingy team.
Great. Oh my God, it's almost painful of how stingy they are. It really is. I mean, it's fun probably as a Canes fan, but the outsiders, I'm like, it is a painful, like it is, to me, it is a step above the New York Islanders, but it reminds me a lot of just like dump and chase. It's so frustrating, and I imagine why it's hard to beat.
It reminds me of New Jersey's neutral trap defense that they used to have, and that was so boring.
It's just not a great. It's not a great viewing. It's not a great viewing experience, but it works for the Canes for the last few years for them to do well in the season.
So in the third, a lot of goals in the third period in this one. Jacob Chychrun got the Caps back in at 2-1 with 5:18 mark. Taylor Hall got his second of the playoffs just about 3 minutes later at 8:24. Ovi got his first. Taylor Hall.
Your old buddy Taylor Hall, one of the worst trades of all time.
Yeah, he was an Edmonton Oiler, and they traded him, and it was the worst trade the Oilers ever made. Alex Ovechkin gets his first goal of this series, and he gets a power play goal, 5th overall. And then Carolina just ended it out. After Ovi's goal, it was about 3.5 minutes later, and Walker scored, and then Svechnikov got his empty netter with about 2.5 minutes left, and Carson will go over the breakdown of the shot clock and the chart here in a second. But bottom line, Carolina wins 5-2. They have a 3-1 series lead on Washington, going back to the America's nation's capital.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, before we kind of get started, as always, credit to TSN for this
Yep.
part of the show. That's, again, like I said, has a lot of the breakdowns, scoring summaries, as well as the shot flow charts. So I like using that. But yeah, I mean, Canes did what they had to do. That's a hard building to win in as a road team in Carolina, and they took both games. Again, like we've said, the struggle for Washington has been scoring goals. They only have 6 goals now in this series in 4 games. It's not going to do it at any point in the playoffs here, despite the fact they did come back in the game in the third, but just not enough. You look at the flow chart here. Washington had 21 shots on net. Uh, Again, these are more spread out throughout the ice, but not too much going on right in front of the net. Um, Here they had a 5-on-3 goal, which right from Ovi's classic spot right here, that was his 5-on-3 goal. Uh, but just that's a big problem for the Capitals. Is just they just haven't been able to score any goals, and that's not gonna work against the Canes, a team that can win a lot of games scoring 2 or 3 goals. Not a problem for them to play that way, and it's proving effective. They're playing really well. And I think it's just, Caps have had a great season. Obviously, Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record this year is probably the highlight of the NHL season, no doubt, no doubt. But I think they're just kind of running out of gas. I could see them maybe winning Game 5, but they are really just running out of gas, unfortunately. And I still have them picked. I picked them to win the series, but it's going to take a lot for them to force
Mm-hmm.
7. Then you go to
Yeah.
Carolina's side and just completely different game.
Oh, look at
37
that.
total shots, tons of shots right in front of the net. They have 2 goals within a couple feet of each other, right on the net mouth. Look at how many shots from the left point. You have almost a dozen shots right here, and one of them
Mm-hmm.
finds the net from Gostis Bear. Sean Walker's 2-on-1 goal right here at the end of that game. Then Taylor Hall's goal. So just just a rough game for the Capitals. Great game for the Hurricanes, and they're 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, which they're a team that has been there quite a bit. This would be the third time, I believe, in the last 5 or 6 seasons that the Canes have made it to the conference final, yet to have made the cup final. Most recently, they made the conference finals. Florida made the finals in 23, and they got swept by the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
And the infamous Matthew Tkachuk game-winning goal with like 4 or 5 seconds left in that Game 4 sweep. So they've got one last game to win, and they're in the conference finals. But that fourth game's always the hardest, and Capital One Arena is still going to be going crazy. They
Mm-hmm.
want the Caps to be going back to Raleigh to play again. So it's going to be a brutal game for both teams to see who's going to end up winning that one. Game 5 will be on Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
So big game for the Canes. Yeah, they've been playing really well this whole series. They've been shutting Washington down and playing their style of
Actually,
hockey.
no. That they moved it. The next game in that series is Thursday night.
Oh,
They
okay.
moved it. They've only made one game tomorrow, Stars and Jets. Then they moved the. Wait a minute. Yeah, Stars and Jets
Yeah, you're right.
tomorrow,
Yeah, that's
and
weird. Okay.
then on Wednesday it'll be Panthers Leafs and then Oilers Golden Knights. So they changed that up a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. That's weird that there's only one
Uh,
game tomorrow night.
well,
But yeah, they changed
okay.
it up.
Nonetheless, they play again Thursday
Yeah,
then. So big game that either could be the end of the season for the Washington Capitals or another flight back to Raleigh again for another game. So
yeah.
we'll see how that looks.
So you think? Okay, let's just do a scenario. Let's say Carolina goes into DC and they beat Washington, take the series. What does that do to a team like Washington? Do you
I mean,
say,
not much. They were so aggressive in the off season, and they did a really good job. And uh, they've got a good team. And I mean, they maybe could try to flip some of those assets for some younger guys who can fit in the mold. But they did a really good job. They locked Chikrin up long term, which is good for that team.
yeah,
You know, I think you're just trying to kind of give Ovi the best possible last couple of years you can that he's going to have. This is a really good Washington team that. Um, we'll have some holes to fill, I think, this off season as far as trying to make the team, uh, a lot. I don't want to say deeper, but I think the scoring to be deeper in the lineup.
hmm
That's been a big problem for them. And I really just, even if they get eliminated here, I really don't think that the season was at all a failure for them. They won the division when they and the conference when they weren't even expected probably to make the playoffs because of how close they were to being eliminated last year. And they went big in the offseason. And the Caps, one thing maybe that's being overlooked is even when Ovechkin retires, they're going to still be a good team. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to be a good team for a long while. They really aren't going to have that much of a rebuild. So good season for the Caps. I don't really think much changes. You might just try to fill in some gaps as far as depth scoring, but I really don't think there's many negatives you can say about this
No,
team and their coach Spencer Carberry. In my opinion, should be winning the Jack Adams this year. So they've got a lot to look forward to, and getting Thompson this year helped them out a
mm-hmm.
lot.
Very much so.
Great goaltending tandem. I don't think there's going to be much of any negatives for the Washington Capitals should they get eliminated here in this round.
Yeah. So again, that game they're going to have an extra day between, so that game will go Thursday in Washington. Now to the big game of the night, as far as I'm concerned, this was a tough one for me. You were asking me Edmonton, Las Vegas. You were asking me because of the situation with Stu Skinner and how he didn't play very well in Game 3. They lost that game with zero point 0.4 seconds left. A lot of momentum to Vegas, and you asked me. I think I said that night that I think Vegas would probably win
We both did. I did
game.
too.
Yeah,
We both
I
did.
say that Vegas would probably win Game 4 based upon the momentum and the fact that Stu Skinner looked very shaky. Well, something happened between Saturday night and now, and you were right when we were just before we went live here. You were saying you're happy for Stu. It's a 3-0 shutout for Stu, his second postseason shutout. Great game from the Oilers. I think Stu had only faced
23,
23
23
shots, right?
saves.
But when you look at it as from 50,000 feet, the Edmonton defense did what I said they needed to do if they were going to win, and that's step it up. Don't give Vegas anything in the front.
Hmm.
Give it, and you're thinking, well, 23 shots. That's not an easy night, but the quality of those shots and were not as great, and
No,
because of the defense, you put Troy Stetcher in and that kind of and then
one Kapanen.
Kapanen and the hitting. I want to see the hit totals. Do they have them here? Yeah, the Oilers. Well, they out hit them by 133-32, but right from the jump, the
Hmm.
Oilers were all over Vegas. As the game went down, with all that hitting, the big fight in the middle of the game, they wore Vegas out. And even Panger from TNT, the ice level guy, he was saying Vegas were coming in the third period. Every shift they're coming off gassed. They're coming off gassed because the Oilers from the start of the game
Yeah.
knocked the living hell out of them.
Yeah.
And Evander Kane and all these guys are just Zach Hyman. I think he's got like 70 hits in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They just that's
They
how
wore them
they went
out.
about this game.
They wore them out. And, I think, again, great game for the Oilers. I said it before we came on the show, not just because I wanted to see you rant and rave about the game if they lost,
Mhm.
but I'm not. I'm just still not convinced by Stu on this game. I mean, it's
No,
one game. It's one game, and the defense really helped him out tonight. And uh, this to me didn't look like the normal Vegas Golden Knights. It didn't.
no.
They just didn't look the same. So great. I mean, great confidence booster for Stu. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not convinced by it. I think that it's just one of those games that's going to happen in the playoffs, um, where it just all goes your way. There's still a long ways to go for him, and I think as far as that side of it goes, I'm not convinced, but nonetheless happy for him for sure. Silences probably some doubts in his head that he won this game. He's gonna have to play again in a tough environment in Vegas. But
Mhm.
my opinion personally, before I kind of break this down, and then we'll go back to you
Mhm.
to talk about a little bit more about since you're again the fan of the Oilers, right?
Yep.
Um, my personal opinion, maybe I'm overlooking it. I think Aiden Hill got too involved in this game.
It's very much so. The Oilers got out of his game early.
He had the he had the call that they got on Yanmark for tripping him because he stuck his foot out
Yep.
and he fell down, which shouldn't have been a penalty, but it was. And then, um, and then they have the incident where Evander Kane, after that Henry goal, falls right into him and bowls him over because kind of his own player kind of pushed him in. But I think right from the start, Hill got way too involved in the game, got too emotional, and tried to
Mhm.
really just step in there for some reason and be bigger than his position. And then it screwed with him the rest of the game because those fans were on him the whole night. Anytime he
Mhm.
caught the puck on a dump in, oh, they were
Even when the
cheering.
puck was in the Oilers'
They
end,
were doing the mock
they're
cheer at
cheering him.
him. I think that was a big downfall for that team. Is Aiden Hill got way too involved, way too early, and it screwed them up. Now, nonetheless, Vegas did not play really good at all. They did not play well. They had 3 power play opportunities in the first, didn't convert, and then they just didn't get anything going the whole game. I mean, they really didn't. Like I heard that from Panger too, that Jack Eichel looked exhausted at points because
So yeah,
they're
Eichel
running.
only had one shot.
Yeah,
That was late in
they're
the
running
third period.
roughshod over him.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm honestly shocked the way this game went because I really thought that the win would have probably come out of the sails of the Oilers after that.
Mhm.
The way they lost last game, and it didn't. But you look at the boards here, Vegas only had 23 shots, lots of close opportunities, but again, I didn't really feel like there were much of any grade A
Mhm.
opportunities, just because of how good the defense was for the Oilers. And then you look at the other side, uh, you got both of Henrik's goals right around the net front, uh, and then Evander Kane's as well. So great, great game for the Oilers. Lots 32 shots tonight, so they outshot Vegas by 9. Great quality opportunities. Lines 1 through 4 played really well. Pairs 1 through 3, and obviously Stu. But we know very well in this sport the hardest game to get is the fourth game.
Mhm.
Do not be surprised if Vegas forces a game 6
Yep.
because they're back at home where they're comfortable. They don't want this to be the last game of the season. They want to go back to Edmonton and try to force a game 7 back at the Fortress.
Yep.
There's a lot of hockey to go, like we say every time after the games are over, especially for you as a fan of the team. It's exciting they win, but the players as of this point are already moved on from this game.
Yep. You
They're looking through now to Wednesday and having to play a really hard game against the Vegas team that's going to try to punish them. It's going to try to force the game 6 back in Edmonton.
you can't celebrate a round 2 game 4 victory.
Mm-mm.
You had a good game. You shake you pat your goalie on the butt. You go off onto the locker room, and that game is done. You move
Yeah.
on. You start thinking about game 5.
Well, and they know they didn't get the best Vegas today. I think
No,
they easily know that they didn't get that
no.
Vegas
But
team.
and to your point about Aiden Hill getting out of his game in the first intermission, Hank um,
Lundqvist.
Lundqvist, the great New York Rangers goaltender, said, he noticed that Aiden Hill is not in his game, and he played and he started getting like that. His goaltender coach said, Hank, just calm down, play goal. You're not out there trying to beat up everybody.
Yeah, I'm
Just
not sure
play goal.
what the reasoning was behind him just getting. I really it's been a while since I feel like I've seen I think the only goalie I can really remember that has happened to quite often too. I feel like where he just gets involved in the game is Bennington,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
he just loses his cool and it just
Mhm.
how many times has it happened where he's let in a goal and he slashes somebody or he goes after somebody or you see him going when he gets pulled out of the game and he's trying to you know he's just mocking everything or he that's the only time I really can recall that I've
Mhm.
seen that from a goalie and it wasn't even that extreme but it started from just that trip and then later as it kept going he just kept getting involved in the game and it's just I think that really threw them off and he's a Stanley Cup champion but in that moment
Yep.
the game could have been completely different if he would have just kept playing
Mhm.
the game instead of getting involved in the game. And
Right.
that's what I think really hurt Vegas
Yeah,
today.
that did, and it seemed like all that activity happened in the first period, but he still wasn't calmed down as the game goes along.
No, and I mean you saw it on that Evander Kane goal, the 2-on-1. it's like he couldn't read what to do. And I mean, I'm not a goalie. I didn't play the sport. I don't understand what the logic, but looking at that, watching the play happen, I thought that it should have been an easier save opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's just your mind is clouded. You've got, 17, 18,000 people screaming at you, hollering at you, mocking you, chanting at you, and you can't even think. You can't even hear yourself think, and you make one minuscule wrong move, and that's it. I mean, you've given enough to a shooter. So props to others, but again, you move on from this game, go to game 5 because they got to win that one, obviously, because Vegas is very well, as we've said, a capable team. Stanley Cup champion 2 years ago.
Yeah, the Stanley
They
Cup.
could force 7. That's how good of a team they are. So the Oilers got to be ready.
Yeah. Uncle Rico gets a couple of goals tonight. That one
His
between
first
the
multi-goal playoff game in 13 years. That's what.
legs when he played for New Jersey.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
But that between the legs one, I thought it was Kane's goal because Kane went busted through and
Nope,
got
but
hit.
he went between
And
the
then you
legs.
look at it, and Uncle Rico did it right between his legs, like he was like Connor Bedard or something like that. That was nice.
You know who I think looked really good tonight was Kapanen. Kapanen looked really good.
That's a guy who gives you instant energy when he hadn't played all season
He
or
is
all
quick. He's
playoff.
quick on his feet.
He's quick. So now I think you stick with those guys that you got because
It worked.
It worked. Well, you don't mess with something that just like for the first 6 games or the first 6 wins, you don't make any changes because it's working. You get a loss, okay, we have to make changes, but if you get that win again, you got to keep it sit there. And yeah, he looked really good. He looked really sharp. That line of Henrique, Hyman, and Kane were just amazing. And Connor McDavid, I think, gets his ninth point in a row in the playoffs or something like that.
9th game with a point.
Ninth game in a row with a point after the Kane goal. So Edmonton wins 3-0. They take a 3-1 series lead, but as Carson said, that 4th game, especially when you're going into, I've been in that building for a regular season game in October, and it was nuts. I can't imagine what that building, the T-Mobile Arena, is going to be like for this game on Wednesday. But the Oilers have to be ready. They have to know that they're going to be pushed, and they're going to be pushed, and they're going to be pushed. They're going to have to double their efforts, and if they want to just come back to Edmonton by themselves. But it's going to be a good one, and that one will be the late game Wednesday night. Now, NHL did something that I wasn't really expecting, and I didn't realize it until earlier today when I was looking ahead. There's only one game tomorrow night. Oh, I know, it was on the broadcast. They were saying what's the upcoming games, and there was only one game tomorrow, and it's Winnipeg and Dallas. And it's like, well, why are they doing that? Like, it's been Winnipeg, Dallas, and it's been.
I think though it's because they're a game behind. Because Winnipeg and Dallas is a game behind everybody else. So I think to even it up, because then now Toronto and Florida and Edmonton, Vegas will play game 5 each respectively on Wednesday, and then Thursday Winnipeg, Dallas, and Carolina, Washington will each be playing game 5.
That makes
so that's
sense.
how it'll kind of work out.
So this game will be 7:00 start, and Dallas leads 2-1. It's in American Airlines Center, and
I can only imagine how that's going to be tomorrow.
That place in game 3 was nuts. We've been in there for the conference finals, and that atmosphere, I don't know if anything matches that atmosphere. Like, I haven't been at Rogers Place or some of the Canadian cities during the playoffs.
It's hard. That Dallas crowd is crazy.
Dallas crowd is something else. So the Jets are going to be battling that, but they're also going to be battling the fact is what Hellebuck is going to show up. Again, we've talked about this the whole playoffs. What Connor Hellebuck is going to show up is the probably future Vezina Trophy winner or a contender for the Hart Trophy. Is he going to show up, or is it going to be the guy that showed up against Minnesota?
He's been the most disappointing player this playoffs, honestly, because of his caliber. We know what kind of player he is. He's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy as the best goaltender in the NHL, and he's been playing awful. He's been playing horrible. Like, tons of games where he just lets in 4, 5, 6 goals a night, and the Jets haven't won a road game yet. as well. They're on a 4-game losing streak as far as in the playoff, but as including regular season, 8 straight games I believe that they have lost on the road. Um, they've been a horrible road team. They've been probably the worst road team out of them all that are left, at least. And Hellebuck has been inconsistent. He had the shutout in game 2, but other than that, this whole playoff, he hasn't really been himself,
No.
honestly. And Dallas is eating him alive. If there's any player in the playoffs right now you probably don't want to be facing against as a defender, it's Mikko Rantanen, because he's got, what, 19 points or some odd, 18, 19 points right now. He's on a tear. Everything he's touching is going in the net, whether he's assisting it or he's shooting it. I I mean, I respect the Jets organization, their team, their fans. They're not winning this series. I'm
No.
sorry, they're not.
Not.
The
Not.
Dallas is just,
No.
they're playing really good. They're a better team than they were last year, and it's crazy because they were a really good hockey team last year. But they're also doing all of this without their number one defenseman and Heiskanen, who still hasn't come back yet, and they're still tearing it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised Dallas wins again tomorrow. Honestly, it's a tough place to play in as a road team. They've got all the momentum. It did what seemed to be really improbable or impossible in beating Colorado without Robertson and Heiskanen, and they've got Robertson back, who still elevates them to be a great, even better team, despite the fact he's still kind of getting the reps in from not playing for a while.
Yeah.
And we know playoff Otter. He's calm, cool, and collected as can be. He literally shows no sign of being scared, nervous, or intimidated by the moment. Out of the
He,
two, he looks more ready.
yeah, he's a guy who, if he lets in a goal or two, he can bounce back. Hellebuck doesn't look like that guy right now.
I mean, look at the, you know, game 7. Up until the end when Rantanen scored his hat trick goal. Every time he was making saves, and the camera would pan to Ottinger, you just see his face, and it's just like
Okay, no big
it's
deal.
okay. Like, let's
Yeah.
move on to the
And
next one.
that's Otter. That's why I love Otter so much, is because
Yeah.
he's a money goaltender. He's like, okay, and I'll compare him to Hall of Famer Grant Fuhrer. Okay, Grant Fuhrer in the 80s got pelted with pucks and stuff like that. And yes, the Oilers of the 80s would let in 5, 6 goals, but then they score 7, 8, or 9. But you would look at Grant Fuhrer, he would let in 4 or 5 and say, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
He never got shooken.
No.
He never got shooken.
And I think
Otter's the
Hellebuck,
same way.
He's a strong goaltender, but I think he has kind of the case of the yips, where if this happens in the playoffs and he lets in a couple, then he's more nervous now, because it's like, oh boy, like, stakes are high. And we throwing it back a long time back that we talked about this. I had a bad feeling about the Jets when they started off so good, because they were way ahead of everybody else, and you already were in your kind of rest mode that you were going to make the playoffs by like game 65. So there was no reason for you to go to the wall on it, because you were already way ahead. And I think this is coming back to bite them a little bit.
Yeah.
And as a roster, they're a great team. I just don't think they have a better roster or a better team than Dallas does. And
No.
that's I think anybody for the most part who watches hockey besides Winnipeg Jets fans will agree with that Dallas has a more well-rounded team than the Jets.
Definitely, and I'm going for Dallas to take a 3-1 lead there and go back to Winnipeg for Game
But you
5.
can imagine Canada Life's going to be crazy on Game 5
Oh,
too.
there'll be a whiteout for sure. And I love Winnipeg. I don't want them to lose their franchise again.
No.
Winnipeg's a great city. It came into the league same year as the Oilers from the World Hockey Association. In fact, the Winnipeg Jets were the last team to win the championship, the AVCO Cup.
They were the best team to come in the NHL that year.
They were the best team to come into the NHL, but they've never gone over the hump. They've gotten close.
They almost
They
got to the conference
never
finals
gotten
in
over the hump.
18. They got to the conference finals in 18 against Vegas in their expansion year.
And their problem in the 80s was a little team from northern Alberta that kept eliminating them from playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're not talking about we just finished talking about the Oilers already.
Okay. But as a Canadian, when the playoffs started and you have 5 Canadian teams for the first time, and how I can't remember how many years you had 5 Canadian teams in the playoffs, a little bit of you wants to have the Canadian team
But
do well and
where do
win.
you live right now?
I live in San Antonio, Texas, 4 hours away from Dallas. So my heart in this series is definitely with the Dallas. And it's funny because again, Dallas used to be Oiler killers in the 2000s. Oiler killers. Every time that they played, Oiler killers. Just like the way the Oilers are king killers. But the last couple of years, going to the games with you, seeing that crowd, and just having a better respect. I love the Dallas Stars. Now, I will admit, Pittsburgh is my second favorite team. Not just because it's your favorite team, but that's just the way it is. But man, I love the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to cheer for Winnipeg because they're a Canadian team, small market team, in trouble, I can't. I got Dallas taking this game, and I got Dallas taking this series. I don't even know if it's going to go past Game 5.
Wow,
I just don't know.
That's a good take. Yeah.
Don't know if it's going to go past Game 5. But yeah, I'm a Texan. I've been living in Texas more than half my life. So yeah, I'm partial to the Dallas Stars in this series.
They deserve it. They deserve it. There's a lot of guys on that team that deserve to win the Stanley, especially like Jamie Benn, who deserve to win the Stanley Cup. And it would be great to see another repeat of last year's conference final, and that would be an even better series than last year's was, because both teams have gotten better.
Yeah. So we'll be on that one after the game, which I'm looking will be probably, if it starts at 7, probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, I guess. Yeah. By that time we'll be on. I love the picture of Stu up there, by the way, on the screen. So just
for one night,
run things over in the East. Carolina now 3-1 lead on Washington. Toronto, Florida tied at 2. In the West, Dallas leads Winnipeg 2-1, and after tonight's game, the Oilers have a 3-1 lead on Vegas. And again, you'll be able to get this tomorrow. It'll be available on Facebook. We'll repost it. Yeah. It'll be available on
YouTube tomorrow.
It'll be on YouTube tomorrow. It'll be on Spreaker.com tomorrow. I'll probably wait until tomorrow to do a post game on TikTok. But another great night of hockey. You got one game tomorrow, Car, and we'll be on the air right after that. And again, thank you very much. All the great work that you do with the intro and keeping this. And that TSN chart is absolutely great. That will explain the game a little bit more to people when they can see and you can point out stuff. That's really good. Thanks to TSN for that as well. So we're going to wrap things up. And in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
Bye, son.